Peace. Welcome to Holistic Intuition, where we collectively explore health, raised consciousness, and overall holistic experiences such as self-love, cultural privilege, confidence, sex, friendships, oppressive systems, and much, much more, while encouraging you to be your best guide in this human experience through helping each other connect more deeply with ourselves.
Peace. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to episode 10. We're finally in 2 digits. Before we get into today's topic, I am super excited and grateful and just really proud of myself for releasing my first ebook. In the description, you can check it out. I'll put the link if you want to support. But as an overall, it entails just caring for yourself holistically. So this is gonna be a series of ebooks, and this is the first volume. And every title is going to be the next phase in the plant cycle, so a label of the plant cycle. So we're starting out with the seed. So this ebook is called The Seed, and I'm primarily focused on how to care for yourself through food. So it's 60 plus pages. It's very in depth, but it's not anything that's overly complex. So if you're like, I don't know where to start in my journey, or maybe you just want to learn more about how the foods you eat truly affect your physiology and your mental and spiritual health, because that's something that isn't talked about enough with food, I highly recommend it. I put in a lot of intention and love into this ebook. I touch on how the government affects our food, alkalinity, Dr. Sebi, herbs. I have recipes. I have staples for your kitchen. I have resources. It's a lot, but it is something that I really enjoyed making for a lot of reasons. You know, I really was wanting to create something that people could resonate with. Don't do that. Thank you. I don't want food and health to be an overly complex topic, and this society does make it overly complex so that we're constantly confused and we're constantly hearing different stories. So yeah, it's a simplified but in-depth guide, and through making it, I was able to explore myself even more. You know, not just information, but also my own limiting beliefs. You know, like, I'm very confident in the information, but this was the first time that I really used Canva in an extensive way. I've made little flyers, here and there, but I've never created, a 60 plus page ebook. And it was interesting for me to just explore myself in that way, because in the past I've kind of told myself that I'm not creative in certain ways. You know, I know that we're all creative, honestly. We're all creators. We're constantly co-creating with the universe, and we are art. You know, we don't make art, we are art, and everything that we create is just an expression of our art, of ourselves. So I had told myself that, okay, yeah, I'm creative with poetry, or I'm creative in the kitchen, or I'm creative with the podcast, but I'm not really good at graphic design, or I'm not really good at, making things look aesthetically pleasing, on the computer. And that was interesting for even myself to just feel those limiting beliefs that were coming up, and just to completely cancel those and move forward with thought processes that were constructive and loving. And through this process, I really enjoyed actually creating on Canva. And yeah, it was just really fun. It was really fun. It was really fulfilling. And I know that whoever reads it will gain so much. And not just with food, but just understanding yourself more. I have these different moments in along, different pages that I call introspective moments, and there are various questions that you can ask yourself as you go along through the ebook, so that it's not just like, okay, I'm just reading this and I'm taking in this information. No, it's I'm reading this, I'm taking in this information, and now I'm asking myself, how do I really feel about this? Or do I have a trigger along this topic? Different questions. So I thank you in advance for anyone that supports it, and let's get into it. So today's episode, I actually did a poll on my Instagram. It was between this topic, which you guys voted on, which was how to be an effective communicator, and what was my other one? Oh yeah, basically like diving into mental dis-ease and all of the limiting beliefs that they throw on us. For example, that these things are lifelong. Like, oh, if I was diagnosed with depression, this is something I have to just live with forever, which is the furthest thing from the truth. And I would definitely love to do that in a future episode, but you guys voted on this one, so I'm really excited to talk about this because we're constantly communicating. And communication is not just verbal. And honestly, most of the time, it's not verbal. But as I've just experienced more life, I've seen and felt everywhere how much people truly lack communication skills. And this isn't just people my age. This is grown adults. This is everywhere. Everywhere I go, I feel it. I feel insecurity. I feel confusion. I feel things that are not constructive or helpful to creating a healthy and loving conversation. So let's light our incense. If you've watched my episodes before, you know I always light incense or candles and speak an intention, because it's very important that if you want to be fulfilled, that you set an intention or a plan beforehand so you can more accurately decipher later on, did this actually fulfill me? So let's get into it. And I'm sure you guys saw my little cutie right here, Harmony. She's just been all over me this past few days. She always is, but even more so. Also, you're never supposed to blow out incense or candles or anything like that. This one doesn't want to go out. Okay, let's take a moment and say our intention. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to go through 5 main points that I want to talk on, because this could go on for way more than 5 points, so I tried to consolidate it. So number 1, something that I've noticed a lot in my interactions and something that is very important to me when I'm in conversation with someone is being an active listener. A lot of times when we hear the word communication, we think about talking. And a lot of times we don't need to be talking. We need to be active listening. And so what is active listening? Active listening is really quieting your own mind, your own thoughts, your own everything, and really giving your full attention to whoever is speaking. Because a lot of times when someone's talking, what we're doing is we're thinking about how we want to respond, and we're not truly listening to what that person is saying. So we don't want to just listen to respond. We want to listen so that we can truly feel what that person is saying and allow that to permeate not only through your brain, your mind, but also your heart center. A lot of times we think about, oh, what do I think about this? What do I think about this? It's not so much what you think about it, it's how you feel. Because we all have our own internal guidance system, and we can think about that in a multitude of ways. You know, we can think about that as source speaking through us. We can think about it as our intuition, but we have a very accurate, if we lean into it, a very accurate and protective system. So allow someone's words to permeate your heart center and really feel, is this something that aligns with me? Is this person someone that aligns with me? When you really feel what someone is saying, it allows you to respond in the most peaceful, kind, loving, constructive way. But if you're not really listening to them and you're focused on your own noise, your own internal noise, then it's very easy to segue to an unhealthy conversation. So like, let's say for example, you know, my partner brings up something that he wants us to work on, or maybe me specifically. If while he's talking, I'm thinking to myself and really coming from ego, I don't do that, or well, this is the reason why I do that, or this, that, and the third. I'm not really hearing him. I'm not really feeling how what he's saying affects him, how it makes him feel. And a lot of times then what would happen is then the ego takes over, and the ego is basically the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are. And the ego is helpful sometimes, but when we are not in tune with it, it can control us. And it can easily segue to then an unhealthy conversation where I'm interrupting and I'm saying, well, no, I don't do that, and this and that, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm interrupting, and it just goes completely downhill. So that kind of brings me to my second point, which is don't interrupt. I see this all the time. I experience it all the time. People have a really hard time not interrupting. It is extremely difficult. And when you interrupt someone, you are really stopping their flow of energy. So if I'm mid-thought and I'm trying to express myself, and it's not like, you know, every time it's going to come out in this super clear way and I know exactly what I want to say. Sometimes people need a few seconds to process, to think, you know, okay, wait, what kind of word would best describe how I feel right now? And when you interrupt someone, you're stopping that flow. And now, where is that energy going? Now it's stuck in their own body. And when you keep interrupting someone, notice how the energy changes, because now they don't feel like they were fully able to express themselves. And secondly, you know, we might not consciously be thinking this, but basically what you're saying to that person is, what I have to say is more important than what you have to say in this moment. So I'm just going to completely disrupt your energy flow, and I'm going to cut in with what I have to say. So a lot of people don't think about it like that, but that is what you're doing. And, you know, if we're trying to have a healthy and loving conversation, then that type of mentality, conscious or unconscious, is not going to create that conversation. Okay, let's go to point number 3. So when I was taking I've worked with kids for 10 plus years. And when I was taking a lot of child development classes, something that they mentioned a lot is using open-ended questions and not closed-ended questions. So an example of a closed-ended question would be, let's say they went to the zoo. Did you have fun? Well, they're either going to say yes or no. It doesn't really give them much room to explore their own feelings about the day, let alone express it to you. So instead you could say, what did you think of the zoo? What part of the park was your favorite and why? And allow them that room to explore. And I like to practice that, you know, even with adults. And sometimes people like to overly guide the conversation. And sometimes it's helpful to bring up, you know, little things here and there. But sometimes people will overdo it, and you're not really allowing room for the other person to explore and express. Okay, number 4 is observing. A lot of times, like I said, with point number 1, is we're so stuck with our own internal noise that we're not active listening, number 1, but number 2, we're not observing enough. If you're someone that's highly sensitive, this is something that you don't have a problem with. It's probably the opposite, that I've had to learn how to observe, not absorb people's energy. But majority of people are not like this. So they're not really observing the other person. And what do I mean by observing the other person? What is their eye contact doing? Because direct eye contact usually correlates with confidence. So when I'm speaking with someone and they're barely looking at me in the eye, it already is a red flag to me. Like, okay, is this person insecure right now? Is something making them uncomfortable? Do they not know how to communicate effectively? Because eye contact is what brings us in. It's what shows people that you're paying attention. So that's something that is very important to me. Also, body language. If someone is not interested, they're going to show it with their body. Now, if you're on a date, for example, and the person across the table from you is leaning forward and their eyes are looking at you, that's a sign that they're interested. There's cues that we're constantly giving off. Even like when I was more looking for jobs, when I wasn't on my entrepreneur journey, I would listen to different things about when I would go to an interview. Don't cross your legs, don't cross your arms, because that's giving off that you're kind of on the defense. Open yourself up, because people feel more comfortable when you're more open. A lot of times we want certain things, but we're not giving it. You can't expect vulnerability from someone if you're not being vulnerable. That type of thing. And it's also important to observe someone not only for the context of this specific conversation that you're having with them, but also to see if this person is aligned with you in the long term. If I'm feeling out a person to see if that could possibly be a friend, I'm looking at all these things because they're important to me. I am not looking for insecure friends. I'm looking for powerful, confident, assertive women friends in my life. So if she doesn't know how to carry it, then it's probably not going to work out, because I'm not going to be in the masculine all the time, leading everything. I want it to be, a healthy balance. So observing is, like I said, it's not just for one purpose. It's really you're feeling out this person as a whole. And then lastly, observe yourself and feel your own internal environment. What thought processes are coming up? Is your ego coming up? Do you feel comfortable with this person? Are you intrigued in the conversation? And really allow this conversation to be a mechanism for healing, because we all have parts of ourselves that are more sensitive, and majority of people are not doing shadow work. They're not thinking about their ego. They're not thinking about their triggers. And if we want that in partnership, if we want that in friendship, we first have to do it for ourselves. Everything starts with us first. So if I want to attract a partner that is not operating from their ego all the time and operating from triggers and projecting their triggers onto me, then I need to figure out what my triggers are. Maybe I don't have a healthy nervous system. If you're having a lot of caffeine, if you're having a lot of processed sugars, you don't have a healthy and aligned nervous system. So that was something I had to work on, a while ago. Is now I never drink coffee or anything like that because it's extremely harmful to our body. But in the past, I was drinking coffee regularly and my nervous system was not aligned. And so these things kept coming up, and it was just like everything was cool. Something would happen and boom, my energy shifted. it was just really difficult for me to work through the emotion and release it. And that wasn't just because I was having, an emotional response that was just like, oh, I just need to work on this. No, it's because my food, the things that I was putting in my body were affecting my emotional reactions, and I wasn't responding, I was reacting. So these are all things that you can think about when you're engaging in conversation. Also, are there certain words, are there certain concepts that are extremely sensitive to you? And dive deeper into that, because we don't want to project our hurt onto other people. We're constantly projecting, and you have the choice. Am I going to project love and health and vitality and immaculate listening skills? Or am I going to project my traumas, my hurt, my triggers, my ego? You have the choice. And it just takes time to heal those things, because we all have it. We all have triggers. No one is just this like calm person all the time and just feels amazing. That's not realistic. So these conversations are so much more than just a conversation. They are mechanisms of our healing. And the first way that we can heal these things is to acknowledge it. If we never acknowledge what needs to be healed, then we can't even get to the part where we're pouring love into ourselves to heal it. So today's was a pretty short video, but I just wanted to really make these points concise and easy to understand, and really just feed this to you guys, because all of these things are things that I think about on the daily. And I've really seen how in my own relationships, how much growth there has been because of my healing and because of my attentiveness to healthy communication. And we all desire healthy communication. We all desire that feeling of love and being listened to. Being heard or being felt is something we all deeply desire. And we cannot expect that from an outside person if we haven't cultivated that in ourselves. And it's just been life-changing, honestly. I'm much more honest now. I feel way more confident saying how I feel in certain ways. I've always been assertive and confident in certain ways, and then other ways I was like, oh, okay, well, you know what, maybe I should just word it like this so it doesn't hurt their feelings, or maybe I should say this or this. No. Just focus on coming with love, innerstanding, and I guarantee that conversation will go leaps and bounds better than if you don't set those intentions prior. And if you are met with someone that is adamant on not reciprocating that, then that should be a red flag to you that that person is not aligned with you. And that's okay. Not everyone is aligned with you. Not everyone is going to like you. Why would they? I don't need everyone to like me. I love me, and the people around me love me, and that's really all that matters. So I trust that these little tips will be helpful, and check out the ebook, and have a beautiful rest of your Sunday, and we will see you next week.